Boris Johnson's former chief advisor Dominic Cummings has savaged the Prime Minister, calling his pandemic border policy a joke as the Indian variant of coronavirus spreads throughout the nation. Former advisor Mr. Cummings has now turned on his former boss at number 10 and launched a savage attack on Mr. Johnson's handling of the pandemic. Mr. Cummings believes the Prime Minister should have learned from the strict lockdowns of East Asian countries and blocked entry from India earlier to stop the variant from overrunning the country. He said that number 10 was totally hostile to learning from East Asia over the course of the pandemic, which resulted in a reluctance to close the UK's borders and halt the spread of deadly coronavirus mutations. The former advisor to Mr. Johnson has echoed calls from scientists of the independent SAGE group who have urged a delay on lifting the lockdown restrictions in England because of the alarming rate at which the Indian variant has spread through the nation. Mr. Cummings has now opposed the Prime Minister's lockdown easing plan and has supported Professor Pagel, who urges the government to take a precautionary principle instead of lifting restrictions on the 17th of May. Timothy Gowers, a director of research at the University of Cambridge, tweeted, "Even if there's only a 20% chance that Prof. Pagel is right, the cost of another big wave is much higher than the cost of delaying the next stage of the roadmap." Mr. Cummings also accused the UK government of showing a lack of transparency during the pandemic. He said the response to new variants had contributed greatly to the catastrophe. Mr. Cummings then added the plan for tackling coronavirus turned out to be part disaster, part non-existent. Writing on Twitter, Mr. Cummings said, "Fact, the evidence clear that fast, hard, effective action best policy for economy and for reducing deaths and suffering. Best example, Taiwan. Also shows that if you really get your act together, not only is economy largely unscathed but life is normal." He continued, "There's a general Western problem based on nonsense memes like Asians all do as they're told. It won't work here. This is what many behavioral science experts charlatans argued, disastrously, in the 20th of February 20. This nonsense is still influencing policy." Edgar joked Borders policy. Mr. Cummings is set to give evidence to MPs next week about his role in the government's response to the pandemic. On Monday in the House of Commons, Labour's Yvette Cooper said that people would be angry that the government's border measures have failed to prevent the spread of a new variant. Before India was placed on the government's red list on the 23rd of April, an estimated 20,000 passengers who may have been infected with the variant were allowed to enter the UK. It comes as cases of the Indian variant are currently surging across some parts of the country.